So let's look at a lesson on what we refer to as measures of central tendency. Mean, median, and mode are the three different measures to identify what we refer to as the middle value. We're going to talk about the mean first. Mean or average is the most common method to identify the middle or central value. A lot of times you'll hear this, especially with money and sports. A lot of times in football, it'd be like the running back, on average, how many yards does he gain per carry? Or if it's a quarterback, how many yards does he pass for per throw? In basketball, it's like, on average, how many points does an athlete score per game? Baseball, on average, how often does a batter get a hit? Those are all types of means, if you will, or average. Um, when it comes to determining the mean, essentially all we do is add all the values, and then we divide by the total number of values. So for an example, in basketball games, Jordy scored 22, 18, 17, 12, and 26 points. What is the mean or average number of points he scored per game? So again, we see that the question is, what's the mean? And again, to find the mean, all you have to do is add all these numbers together and divide by however many numbers are present. So to do this math, I have to add the 22. I add that to the 18. And then I add that to the 17. I add that to the 12. And then I add the 26 in. And then you're going to divide all that by however many scores are present. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scores. I have to divide by 5. So using my calculator, I can determine the mean rather easily. So I have a 22 plus the 18 plus 17 plus the 12 plus the 26. So I get then this 95. And I still got to divide that by 5. So my calculator, I still got to divide that by 5. And we end up with then 19. An important thing to pick up on is the mean has to be between the highest and lowest value. So if you notice that 12 is the lowest and 26 is the highest, the mean has to be somewhere in between there. And 19 is, it looks like it's pretty much in the middle as well. So that's what we mean by finding an average or a mean. So another central tendency is what we refer to as the median. So the median is just another way to find what we refer to as a middle or central value. And the median is a little bit different than the mean in how we determine what the median actually is. One thing is the median is dependent upon the number of values given. So it's very important to know how many values are given. If there's an odd number of values, this is how we will determine the median. We're going to arrange the numbers from smallest to largest, and the number in the middle is called the median. So they have to be arranged from smallest to largest, and then the number in the middle is going to be called the median. So we have this question. During a 7-hour period, a music store recorded the following number of sales. Hour 1, 43 DVDs. Hour 2, 28 DVDs. Hour 3, 24 DVDs. Hour 4, 36 DVDs. Hour 5, 30 DVDs. Hour 6, 38 DVDs. Hour 7 is 48 DVDs. And then the question is, what is the median value? So since we're determining the median, we have to follow the strategy that says we have to arrange numbers from smallest to largest first. So if I'm looking at the numbers, I see a 24 is the smallest, and then a 28, So see a 24, a 28, looks like 30. I see a 36 and a 38. So I see a 30, a 36, and a 38. Then we have a 43 and a 48. So the 43 and the 48. So again, it said a 7-hour period, so we should have 7 different recorded number of cells. So we have 24, 28, 30, 36, 38, 43, 48. So they are from smallest to largest. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's always good to double check to make sure you didn't lose a piece of data, because that will always mess it up. So then we just kind of work our way to the middle. So we mark out the outer ones, we keep marking out the outer ones, and we keep marking out the outer ones until we're just left with the middle one. So the one left over in the middle is what's called the median. So our answer to this problem is the 36. The 36 is the middle value, or the central value here, or we call it the median in this case, since we did this strategy on it. Notice again, it's got to be between the smallest value and the largest value. So the 24 was the smallest and the 48 was the largest. The median's got to be somewhere in between there. And if you get an answer that's not between there, then we've made some type of mathematical error. So a median can also be determined a different way. As I said, it depends on the number of pieces of data given. So the median is different when there is an even number of values present. So this is not the same method as we just did. It looks very similar, but there's a little bit of a twist to it. So again, we arrange numbers from smallest to largest. That's our first step. Arrange the numbers from smallest to largest. And then what's going to happen, there's not going to be a middle value. So what you're going to see is there's going to be 2 middle values. So you're going to circle the 2 middle values, and then we're going to add them together and divide by 2. So let's look at this problem here. Alexia has the following test scores in her math class. She's got a 90, a 72, an 86, a 94, an 82, and a 90. The question is, find the median. So again, our clue is in the question, and that is a median. And to find the median, the first step is to arrange them from smallest to largest. So I'm seeing a 72, an 82, an 86, a 90, and a 90. And then there's a 94. So again, to find the median, we work our way to the middle. So we mark out the outer ones, mark off the outer ones, and thus now we're left with 2 middle ones. So we want to circle those middle 2 values. So then our strategy turns into finding the average of these 2. So we add those together, 86 plus the 90, and we have to divide by 2 to find the median. So again, we can use our calculator. 86 plus 90 is 176. And then we're just going to divide by 2. Again, I probably don't need a calculator for this. The math is pretty small. But we're going to go ahead and just divide by 2 anyway. And we end up with an 88. So again, remember the median has to be somewhere between the smallest and largest value. So 72 is the smallest, 94 is the largest, so it's got to be somewhere in the middle. So 88 sounds very reasonable. So that would be the median of that. So the last of the central tendencies is what's referred to as the mode. So the mode is the least common way to identify the middle or central value. You probably won't see this on the GD test. It's hard to say, but typically it's the least one that you would see. It's usually the mean or the median on the GD test. So the mode is determined this way. The mode is the value that occurs the most. There can be more than one mode if there are several items that repeat the same number of times. There can also be no mode if none of the items repeat. So that's where the mode is a little tricky. So again, it's basically the item that occurs most. But if more than one item occurs most, then we have more than one mode. But if none of the items occur most, then we just say there is no mode. So let's look at our data. So we have 6 weather stations recorded the following temperatures at 5 p.m. So we have a 14 degree, a 16 degree, 14 degree, a 13 degree, a 12 degree, and a 14 degree. So the the mode is the one that occurs most. So I see a 14, I see a 16, I see another 14, I see a 13, I see a 12, and I see another 14. So by laying it out this way, you can kind of start to see that the 14 is what occurred the most. So the 14 would be referred to as the mode, or 14 degrees would be the mode. Another thing we may come across is what's referred to as line plots. So what you'll see is you'll have a line and you'll be plotting data along the line. That's going to be an example of a line plot. So you'll be given some data like this. So we have a garden member, Al, Paul, Ellie, Dee, Vicky, Jane, Zoe, Will, Bob, and Theo. Types of vegetables planted. So Al planted 4 different types of vegetables. Paul planted 3 different types of vegetables. So we kind of see that that's what this side's about. So we have this graph, and then we have some directions. The line plot below is based on the table. So this line plot here is going to be based on this table. Each point represents one of the members of the community garden. So each point represents one of the members of the community garden. Place as many points necessary to complete the plot. So again, we have a line plot down here. We have data over here, and this data is going to be placed on this line plot. So if you notice, each point represents one of the members of the community garden. So this point here represents one of the community members. So notice how if we play this data out, 4 would go here, the 3 would go here, the 6 would go here, the 2 here, the 3 there. So what you got to kind of pick up on is, what's missing on the line plot. So if we look across here, the 2s, we have 1, 2 2s. So I need 2 of those. So I'm missing a person. So now I've got the 2s marked off. The 3s, there's got to be, I've got 2 already, but how many 3s do we have over here? There's 1, 2, 3 3s. So I'm missing one of the people there that planted 3 different types of vegetables. So I've got 3 3s now marked off. The 4s, I just need 1 4. Looks like there was 2 4s, so I'm missing a 4. So I got to put that up there as well. On the GD test, you probably will be clicking above the line. It'll make a mark for you on the GD test. So you just have to click above the line. The 5s, I don't see any 5s over here. There's a 6. I just need 1 6. There is just 1 6. 7s, I don't see any 7s. 8s, I do see an 8. Okay. So it looks like we got everything plotted. But then if we look over here, though, it's like, wait a minute. Zoe, we didn't mark her. So this over here, we got to make sure we mark everything off, and we need to also include Zoe. She planted just 1 type of vegetable. So now it looks like we've got everything marked. So that would represent the full line plot now represents all the data in the table. So you may have to do something like that on the GD test, but on the GD test, you may have to just click your mouse above there and it'll make the mark for you. So our next topic is probability. Probability describes the likelihood an event will or will not happen. A lot of times you'll hear that with our forecast. What's the probability that it's going to rain today? What's the chance of rain? So the word chance and probability are very similar in what they mean. So probability will be a number from 0 to 1. So a number from 0 to 1 means we're probably going to have fractions or decimals involved as well. So fractions and decimals are going to be common representations. Also, we could have percent math here. So it could be from 0% to 100%. If 0 is used, this means 0 probability or 0 chance the event will happen. So 0 means the event's probably not going to take place. It's very, very unlikely. It won't happen. 1 is used to mean that the event will happen, or there's a 100% chance that it'll happen. So if a probability is 0, the event is not going to happen. If the probability is 1 or 100%, that means the event is going to happen. So to find the probability of an event, basically this is what we will have to do. We'll have to identify the number of favorable outcomes and the total number of possible outcomes. Once we identify those, it can be expressed as a ratio of favorable to total possible outcomes. So that's going to be what we refer to as a probability. So probability is going to be most commonly written as a ratio. Because remember, ratios can be related to fractions, decimals, and percents. So let's look at a probability question. So let's find the probability of the following event. Remember, probability can be expressed as a ratio of favorable outcomes to total possible outcomes. So the example is the spinner is divided into 8 equal sections. What is the probability of spinning 2 on the spinner? So 2 is what we refer to as our favorable outcome. So if you notice on the spinner, there are 2 2s. So the favorable outcomes is going to be 2. And the bottom's got to be the total possible outcomes. Well, since there are 8 spots on the spinner, there's going to be 8 different outcomes. So that's going to be the total number of outcomes would be 8. So ratio would be 2 to 8. Again, if you want to use your calculator, your N over D button can reduce it down, or we can kind of see that there's a common divisor of 2. I can divide a 2 out of the numerator and denominator and get this to be a 1 to 4. A 1 to 4, if you recall, is a 0.25 as a decimal. And 0.25 could also be written as 25%. So there's 3 ways to express the probability. You could say there's a 1 in 4 chance of getting a 2. There's a 0.25 chance of getting a 2, or there's a 25% chance of spinning and getting a 2. So that would be your different outcomes there. So 1 to 4 would be the ratio form or fraction form, and then we have our decimal form, and then we have our percent form. So that's going to conclude our lessons on mean, median, mode, and proportion.